Bryce Carter stared out the passenger window as his mom guided their old silver Accord off-state, Route 74, easing past the weathered "Welcome to Maplewood" sign. Her fingers tapped along the steering wheel in time with a song that wasn't playing. The road unwound ahead of them, lined by neat rows of tan brick houses, each lawn perfectly trimmed, each mailbox clean and straight. It was the kind of town where people waved at each other just because they could. Bryce wasn't in the mood to wave. "You okay?" his mom asked, glancing over at him for half a second before shifting her eyes back to the road. He gave a lazy shrug. "Yeah, you're gonna do fine," she said, pushing a little too much hope in her voice. "I've got a good feeling about this place." She always did after a move. It was their third one in 4 years. Her promotion brought better pay and better hours, what she called a shot at stability. To Bryce, it just meant another goodbye to everything familiar. He'd left his best friend back in Fort Wayne, left his favorite boxing gym, the one with the cracked mats and the old leather bags that smelled like bleach and sweat. Worst of all, he was back at square one. New school, new faces, new people trying to figure him out. Maplewood Middle came into view before he was ready. A low, modern building surrounded by tall oaks and a parking lot that wrapped lazily around the front. Kids clustered by the entrance, laughing in loose groups, backpacks slung over one shoulder. Bryce's stomach knotted, not out of fear. He just wasn't in the mood to be looked at. He hated that part. Being the new kid meant everyone had questions. What's your deal? What's your angle? Some would be curious, others suspicious, and a few would flat out dislike him, especially when he didn't fit the usual mold. His mom parked and cut the engine. She turned to him, her face softening the way it did when she was trying not to push too hard. "I know this is tough," she said, "but you know who you are, Bryce. Don't let anyone take that from you." He nodded once and unbuckled his seatbelt. "And if anybody gives you trouble..." He smirked. "Breathe deep. Stay calm." "Exactly," she said, smiling with quiet pride. "Just like your uncle always says." Bryce slid out of the car, his uncle's voice echoing in his head. "Control is everything. Power doesn't come from your fists. It comes from knowing when not to use them." He'd spent years training to understand that. As he walked toward the entrance, he kept his gaze low. The scrape of sneakers on pavement, the zip of backpacks opening, the hum of early morning chatter, they blurred into background noise. But he noticed a pause, the slight shift in conversation as he passed. People saw him. They just didn't know what to make of him yet. Homeroom was uneventful. Ms. Aldridge, the teacher, introduced him without ceremony. "We have a new student today," she said, adjusting her wire-rimmed glasses. "Bryce Carter, from Fort Wayne. Let's make him feel welcome." There were a few glances, a nod from a kid in the front row. That was it. Bryce slid into a seat in the back and tried to vanish. But it's never that easy. By third period, Bryce had already started mapping the school in his head. Who moved through the halls with swagger? Who stayed quiet? Who was looking for trouble? He noticed a boy with a buzz cut and a loud laugh who ruled the cafeteria like his personal kingdom. His name was Aaron, and he had a way of making people listen, even when he wasn't saying much. Next to him was Chase, tall, lean, always watching like a hawk, his sharp cheekbones tense as a coiled wire. Then there was Logan, shorter, braces gleaming, laughing too hard at everything the other two said. They hadn't spoken to Bryce yet. They didn't need to. He recognized the energy. It hovered, waiting. He kept his posture relaxed, his hands still. Watched them watching him, but he never stared back long enough to invite anything. He didn't need trouble, but trouble didn't usually ask for permission. Lunch was a reminder of how alone he was here. The cafeteria smelled of bleach and old pizza. Tables were loud, floors sticky. Bryce carried his tray past the noise to a corner by the windows. Alone was better. Less talking, more thinking. He was halfway through a bite of something pretending to be lasagna when a shadow cut across his tray. "You knew." Bryce looked up. A kid with tight curls and a red hoodie stood there, casual but not unfriendly. "Yeah," Bryce said. "Cool. I'm Malik. You don't have to sit by yourself, man. We got a spot." Bryce nodded his thanks, but didn't move. Malik smiled, got the message, and walked back to his group. It was a small thing, but Bryce would remember. A few minutes later, another voice. Louder. Not friendly. That your mom's lunch? Bryce turned slowly. 3 boys stood there. Chase, Aaron, and Logan. Chase was the one who'd spoken. Bryce didn't answer. Aaron tilted his head, pretending to be confused. Oh, he doesn't talk, he said. Maybe he doesn't speak English, Logan added, laughing like it was the funniest thing ever. Bryce went back to his food. His uncle's words circled in his mind. Bullies feed on your energy. He stayed steady, but they didn't back off. They leaned in. What's in the bag? Chase asked. Karate belt? You gonna do some ninja flips? Bryce didn't look up. I'm eating, he said evenly. Aaron stepped in closer. Say what? I said I'm eating, Bryce repeated. For a second, there was silence. Then Aaron slapped Bryce's milk carton off his tray. It landed with a splatter, milk pooling on the floor. Bryce blinked once. He could feel the warmth in his chest, the instinct to move. But he held it. Right there. Then Malik was there. Back off, Malik said, stepping in. Aaron smirked. We're just saying hi, he said. Didn't look like it. Aaron grinned wider. You crying for him now? Logan's laugh was less sure this time. One of the lunch monitors, a mess. Hayes hurried over. What happened? Just spilled, Chase said, already stepping back. They scattered before she could press them. Malik knelt and grabbed napkins. You good? Bryce nodded. Malik didn't push. They think they're funny, he said. Just keep your space. They won't stop, Bryce replied. Probably not, Malik shrugged. But they'll get bored. Bryce wasn't so sure. He'd seen kids like them before. They didn't get bored. They got worse. By the end of his first week, the new kid novelty had worn off. What hadn't faded was Aaron, Chase, and Logan's attention. Every day, they found something new. Shoulder bumps. Comments just loud enough. Pencils knocked from his desk. They didn't want to hurt him. Not yet. They wanted inside his head. But Bryce didn't flinch. Didn't react. So they tried harder. It was Tuesday when it tipped. Gym class. Dodgeball. Coach Blake's favorite brand of chaos. Bryce played clean. Not too hard. Not too soft. But when he tagged Aaron square in the shins, things shifted. In the locker room afterward, as Bryce tied his shoes, he heard them approach. You think you're slick? Aaron said. Bryce didn't look up. Chase sneered. Kid thinks he's special cause he can throw a ball. Bryce stood calm. It's a game. Logan's laugh was too loud. Nah, you made Aaron look dumb. I didn't make anyone look dumb, Bryce said. He got hit. For a moment, silence. Then Coach yelled down the hall. They left. But Bryce knew. This wasn't over.